May 12th at exactly 5 o'clock. Rachel, roll call. Trustee McReynolds will no longer be serving on this committee as of today, and Trustee Ewert is excused.
Okay.
So that will be the three of us.
Technically resign off of the committee.
He asked,
He just has not to be reappointed this go
Troy asked not to be reappointed,
Okay.
so he will not be reappointed to this
So
committee.
we're just gonna put absent within the minutes.
I believe we do not have any comments or correspondence that I'm aware of.
We do not.
No public appearances that I'm aware of.
I'm aware of it.
Okay.
Is there anybody that would like to speak?
I don't think so. And then I'm looking for the reading and approval of minutes from December 9th of 2024. Can't believe that's the last time we met.
I move to approve.
I'll second it.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any conversation, questions, comments on those minutes? All right, hearing none. All in favor of approval?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, meeting minutes from 12/9 of 24 are approved. Moving on to new business, a review of the 2025 financials. I believe they were in the packet. I do not know, Zeke or Michelle, if you have anything you want to quickly add. Otherwise, any questions from you guys of the stuff that was in the packet?
So we'll take a 30,000 foot level view on your financials. So first and foremost is your investment income. We consistently budget less investment income than what you may earn in any given year. Is the idea that we want to under budget the revenues and at least adequately track the expenses so we don't find ourselves in a situation where, we don't have any money, right? And then we true all of that up through the audit process. So if we extrapolate out present interest rates, they will change. You're slated to bring in $311,000 this year in interest income. That's down a little bit from last year. Interest rates have slipped about 50 basis points from where we were a year ago. So that money is split across your general fund and everything attached to your general fund and your water and sewer funds, about half and half, one to the other. So it's not necessarily the worst position to be in to have that income. Please note that as you spend down your cash, that impairs your interest income. And as the market shifts with interest rates, particularly 3 years and shorter of the treasury curve, that income goes down also. On the flip side, if interest rates tick up, you benefit from some additional income right now. The longer term, and I mean over multiple years, the long term trend is up. You're looking at T-bills on out to like 7 years of maturity. The long end of the curve, not so much. We're not seeing as much foreign action in our debt markets, and the Japanese just unloaded a bunch, and the Chinese just unloaded a bunch. And that's why if you've got a fixed income retirement portfolio, you're probably disappointed in the present moment. You're counting on appreciation of the bond itself rather than the interest coupon payment. Other than that, items of note in your financials. Going back to get your page number. EMS funds, it's worth just taking a look at that. That's page 106. I'll let you get there. We'll talk about a couple of pieces. We've got 33% of the fiscal year has elapsed, and yet spending is tracking on at about 55-ish%, 48% for the fund overall. So some of those are one-time expenses that have gone out. I do want to make your committee aware that I authorized an $8,000 expenditure for repairs on ambulance 732 to have that ambulance in service. Those repairs haven't been made. Crews, just very candidly, have not done an adequate job of performing maintenance over there. I know routinely go over, do a walk around the units, and actually do a visual inspection of them. I walked over the other day and we had a tire that was running on metal threads. It's not a good situation to be in. Somebody should have caught that before I did. And I think the last time that the oil was changed on 7/31 is when I did it this winter. I've had a conversation with several supervisors over there. It's just not acceptable for that department to not maintain the fleet. So I'm just bringing it up by way of making you aware for it. We're running a little ahead of budget on where we would be on the expense side. If you go back a page to 105, the good news is it's offset a little bit by increased revenues, but it's not a one-to-one in terms of that. So we brought in about 50% of the revenue that we budgeted for the year. That's a real positive. If that trend holds out, we'll be above what we thought we would be for the year for overall revenue. Again, the net will be it's a negative, but at least it's not as big of a negative. Going on to page 109, this is the one that in our entire budget it gives me the most concern. This is our interfacilities fund revenue. We stated that we would have 6 full-time regular staff within the department, and then we would add on 3 more that would be covered by interfacilities revenue. We purposefully budgeted a low dollar amount for revenue. We fully assigned the cost within the fund for the labor, and we've had a number of conversations with the department that, hey guys, in order to maintain 3 of the positions over here, we have to be turning runs. And today we turned 0, which is what you see there in the budget. So we budgeted $42 grand. We're in May. We've done not one interfacilities run. I finished up my last class today for instructional time in paramedic. I've got a couple of days of testing coming up and some clinical to wrap up. When I get done with that, I need to spend some time over there reaching out and making contact with facilities to see if we can pick up some contracts. We did get a great conversation with Pro Health. I've reached out twice now, as has Kurt, to follow up on that. I'm not sure what's going on, if it's a staffing thing or a turnover thing, but we haven't gotten any response back after what was really a, hey, great, glad to have you, and good to work with your conversation in our meeting. So we need to chase that down and get on top of it. To that end, we've had one individual to leave us, Mr. Kevin Wolf. Kevin got a job in a full-time department, a little more fire focused somewhere else, and he's talked about that for a long time. Administratively, I frozen that position because we had no revenue coming in to offset it. So we're backfilling with part-time and on-call, so at least the benefit outlay is not there. That's something that the new EMS committee is going to need to discuss, and this committee will need to discuss, and the board will need to discuss as the year goes on. Administratively, my move is going to be, you guys set some revenue goals. If we're not on track to do that every time somebody leaves us, I'm going to freeze the position out, and then we're just going to discuss it as we go along. Fair enough?
Absolutely.
Okay. Other than that, there's nothing in here that jumped off the page at me that didn't come out as a, hey, this is a one-time revenue or a one-time expense occurrence or a timing issue related to when we get state funds or something of that nature. If there's anything you guys have specific questions, let's take those on and talk about it. No? Okay. So that's the review piece. Other things that are coming up. Staff plans to recommend that you expand one more position within the sewer department this year. So I'm just going to bring it up here as a conversational piece. We are running a part-timer. We had an interview process. We had 2 really great candidates for an open full-time position. Rick discussed with what became candidate number 2 an opportunity to work part-time for the department. We have some funds in the budget at this point that we can expend to do that, but we will need a mid-year amendment if we're going to keep him and running full-time. I would tell you there's need for that work. By way of comparison, to operate the tiny hamlet of Sister Bay, I had 8 full-time people in water and sewer and streets, and then 4 full-time, so I'm going to call it 3/4 of the year, so 12 total here. Rick, how many people we have working for you full-time?
7 full-time,
Right.
1
And
part-time.
a substantially bigger community with a whole lot more miles of pipe and asset to maintain. So when I came in here, going on 8 years ago, I looked at the department and just said, I don't know how you get this done. Like, I have no idea how you get this done with the manpower that you have. So we've consistently been investing within DPW to try to bring things up to speed. Moreover, Greg Winsky, who is you know, we say everybody's replaceable, but Greg's really special. So yes, Greg is replaceable, just like we all are. He fell off a charm bracelet. You can't teach people to care, and he goes way out of his way to do that. So working in our parks. So we would like to see Greg go on full time also. Right now it's essentially 3/4 time. We would bring that back as a budget amendment, so that we can continue to have excellence in our parks. Okay. There's the overview and the kind of up and coming stuff.
Alright, anything else from you guys? Questions, comments, anything you saw in there?
Agenda item number 2, we get to it.
Yeah, just wanna make sure there's nothing else lingering out there, and, I had the opportunity to meet both of those candidates, and they both were excellent, so if we can work that out for him to work part-time, I think that would be a huge asset to the department. Both were great.
Yeah, we're waiting on his test results, pre-employment testing.
Well, that's always the big one.
Yeah,
So, okay. Moving on to number 2, discussion on building fee schedule, and then we'll consider an appropriate motion for action. This is something we've wanted to talk about for a while, correct, Zeke?
Yes, sir. So, you haven't adjusted your building fees since 2019?
That was my first question.
Yeah, that's-
right there.
And then
Yeah.
before that, 2010 or 11, it looked
Yeah, it
like.
was before me.
And I tried diving into even before that, so there's been 2 in 15 years.
Yeah, it's probably fair.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, this is coming from your building inspection contractor. They're in just a good position to know what's going on in the market and to make recommendations to you about what you should or shouldn't charge. So they're saying, hey, you should increase your permit fees.
What are other communities do? I mean, are we comparable to, say, Burlington? Or
It
How
really
does
is
that work?
all over the place. Other communities will have somebody in-house, so they're a paid full-time or paid part-time inspector in-house. The license holder is the municipality. They do in-house permit. This would be like a Madison or somewhere that's really big, right? In-house permit review, and they will use building permitting as a mechanism to sort of subsidize various facets of development that they want to see take place. So like residential housing or multifamily housing, right? They tend to have lower permit fees. Other communities view it as a revenue generator because there's such demand to do building and development within the communities from like a Sun Prairie. We have a lot of building activity going on and kind of an endless line of people looking to invest there. So you really can do whatever you want to do. If you want to keep them the same, Zeke's okay with that. If you want to move them up, Zeke's okay with that too. Never have I gotten a pushback from anybody about, hey, you're charging too much for your building permit fees.
Yeah, I would say quick glance across the communities close to us or ones similar in size, we are probably currently on the lower end.
Yep.
Just because the first part of the conversation was we have not updated them in 6 years. So it's just not a realistic number from 6 years ago.
So did you say that we do look at it as a revenue stream?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah.
How big of one would you say?
It's somewhere between $8,000 and $15,000 a year, depending on your net.
Okay.
So what ends up happening is Safe Build takes, long story made short, you are using the permit revenue to pay for your building inspection. So it's like, it's somewhere between $70,000 and $100,000 a year in income. They get 85% of it, right? So it's on a percentage basis. So they have a, what might be considered a perverse incentive to ask for increases, which is also why I'm saying, like, I'm okay if you don't want to do that. The net income of the village is not going to change, and for me, a better measurement of where the break point is when Safe Build knocks on the door and says, hey, we can't do your inspections anymore, we can't manage the process anymore unless you're willing to move it up, right? That's a better tell for me about profitability and managing the clients.
So Zeke, what would be a reasonable increase, given that we haven't increased in 6 years?
So let's talk about interest rates in the market environment right now and home sales. You had a lower number of home sales than you have had since I think 1978 on record. So units sold. We've got interest rates that have now moved out of a 40-year downward trend channel back into an upward trend channel. We have international conflict in a way that we haven't seen since the 1930s. And building permits as a whole are down. If you look at the coasts, we're typically like 18 to 24 months behind the coast here in the Midwest. The Texas market in particular is in what I would describe as a virtual free fall, particularly in multifamily if you're looking at prices, as are both coasts. It has not hit the Midwest, it has not hit upstate New York, and there's definitely places in the community or in the country with strength. But as we see, I'm giving you a long answer. We had, let's call it 8 million illegal immigrants moving to the country and various federal programs that paid rent, paid hotel vouchers, paid for accommodations for them to stay here. And now we're seeing that run in reverse. So the markets that stand to lose the most from a rent stabilization and house price stabilization standpoint are also the communities that saw the greatest influx of population that wasn't there previously. So when you look at places like Austin, Texas, like they've taken a huge hit. And that's because they also saw the biggest increase in population due to that migrant movement. Now it's running the other way. Well, what happens to house prices? Here it comes out of the bubble. So Zeke's professional opinion is probably not the best time to do a rate increase. And I don't know that it moves the needle for us a lot to do so. Again, if Safe Built is really hard pressed to go, look, we're not going to inspect your community anymore, I'll be in here going, hey, look, guys, we got to do a rate increase. And until then, all the market indicators tell me we're having a hard enough time getting housing built. And moreover, when I think about housing affordability on the low end, this is all based on square footage, not on value, right? So it sort of presumes that, well, hey, you're going to build a big house, and so you're going to spend a lot on your permit. Okay, well, what about the small house? You know, relatively, it's a huge absolute dollar fee, right, relative to the whole house. So stuff to think about. The buyer ultimately picks up the cost on this stuff. It's not a non-starter.
So when you compared to the other
I looked at a few.
communities?
I mean, I'm not, when I say we're low, it's not like we're this drastic low.
Again, if you want to go up, go up. If you don't want to go up, that's okay. I'm just saying there's not.
Yeah. The way I feel, and I'm going to say I'm indifferent. I'm very,
Yeah.
very rarely indifferent, as most of you know. But I see both sides. We have not gone up in 6 years. We've gone up twice in 15 years. Talking with developers and people, they do kind of sometimes smirk out like, hey, you're kind of our favorites. You're still a little low. But to his point,
On the impact, so there's two parts of this.
Yes,
There's
yeah.
the building permit side of it, we're low. On the impact fee side of it, we're not low.
correct.
Okay.
And so when we hear it from the developer, it's like, hey, they don't really see it. They just see it all as one bill, right? Not this or that. And it's like, hey, your impact fees are relatively high compared to other communities. Yeah, they are. And then you've got Western Racine Sanitary District. So if you come here, you have impact fees from 2 different entities, plus your building fees, and then you've got zoning fees on top of that. I'm more concerned about a major slowdown. So when I say I'm indifferent to this, you can jack the fees to the roof. The people that want to be here, they're still going to pay them because they want to be here, right? This is going to be home for them. You could take the fees to 0, and it's still not going to entice a lot of development where people go, oh my God, look, the fees are 0. Let's go there, because for a $500,000 house, if it's $6,000 in fees, that's not your make or break. So,
Well, could we table it? Say,
Yeah.
for
And
a while, and just not make a move on it right now, but just maybe
Sure.
just
yeah,
think about it, not let it drop.
given
is
other
what I'm saying.
discussions we're gonna have in the future about possible increase costs for other items, I think this is something we can hang our hat on and say we've held the line. Because
That's
small,
right.
maybe PR,
And then revisit
and
it.
revisit it if we need
Yeah,
to.
I mean,
revisit annually.
that's to say we can just, to your point, table it, or just say we'll review it first quarter next year.
Yeah.
Or something to that. I'm kind of right there as well.
Okay. So we need a motion to table.
Need a motion to table to the first
I
quarter
motion
of
to
next
table.
year, unless we need to discuss it for some reason sooner.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, any other conversation? All right, all in favor of tabling it to the first quarter next year?
I,
That then is set for the first quarter of next year unless we need to revisit it. And with that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Wow. That was,
Well, you guys asked for efficiency. We're gonna try to do things efficient. Try to clean up the long standing time. I'm gonna need a second if any of you're interested. Otherwise, I.
That's me. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I-
Excellent. All right, meeting adjourned.